Cheating wife came home drunk after New Year party with Hickey on her neck, so I left without a trace. I'm not here for small talk, I said bluntly. Say what you need to say. She swallowed hard. I know I hurt you. I know I ruined everything, but I need you to understand. Stop, I interrupted. I don't need your excuses. You lied, you cheated, and you destroyed our marriage. That's all I need to understand. The laughter, the music, the clinking of champagne glasses. It all seemed so innocent. Yet sometimes, in the haze of alcohol and the thrill of the moment, people make mistakes they can't take back. She came home drunk that night, her makeup smudged, her laughter loud. But it wasn't the alcohol on her breath or the way she stumbled through the door that shattered me. It was the Hickey on her neck. That one mark told a story of betrayal I hadn't asked to be a part of. In that moment, I knew there was no fixing what had been broken. So, while she slept, blissfully unaware of the storm she had unleashed, I made a choice. I left without a trace. Stay tuned as I share the story of how one New Year's Eve ended not with resolutions, but with revelations that changed my life forever. Marriage is a funny thing. You enter it full of hope, believing you've found your forever. At first, everything feels perfect. The honeymoon phase where even the mundane feels exciting because you're in it together. That's how it was for me and Lisa. 7 years ago, when we said I do, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. She was smart, funny, and effortlessly charming. The kind of woman who could light up any room. But somewhere along the way, things began to change, or maybe she did. Looking back now, the signs were there, though subtle. Late nights, missed dinners, moments where she seemed more distant than present. I trusted her, brushed it all off as work stress or needing space. After all, isn't trust the foundation of a marriage? I never imagined that trust would be the very thing she'd use to betray me. This past New Year's Eve was supposed to be like any other, low-key, quiet, and spent together. But this year Lisa had plans, a party at a coworker's house. It's a work thing, she said, her voice laced with excitement. She smiled in a way that felt wrong, like there was more to the story than she let on. But I didn't want to be that husband, the insecure, suspicious one. So I told her to go. Have fun, I said with a forced smile. But deep down, something gnawed at me. She left at 8, dressed in a shimmering dress that hugged her figure in ways I hadn't seen in years. She looked stunning, but she didn't dress like that for me anymore. Don't wait up, she said playfully as she walked out the door. It stung more than I cared to admit. I tried to distract myself that night, football, snacks, scrolling through my phone, but my mind kept drifting to Lisa. Where was she? Who was she with? Was she really at a coworker's party? Around midnight, the faint pop of fireworks outside marked the arrival of the new year. Happy New Year, I muttered bitterly to the empty living room. It was nearly 4 a.m. when the front door creaked open. Lisa stumbled in, heels in hand, reeking of alcohol and perfume. I stayed on the couch, pretending to scroll through my phone, though my heart pounded in my chest. She didn't notice me at first, heading straight to the kitchen for water. Then she turned toward the hallway, and that's when I saw it. A Hickey, bright red, angry, and undeniable. It stood out on her neck like a scarlet letter. My stomach dropped. The air seemed to leave the room as I stared at her, trying to process what I was seeing. I wanted to believe I was imagining things, that it wasn't what it looked like. But the more I stared, the more certain I became. That mark wasn't mine. Rough night? I asked, my voice slicing through the silence like a blade. She froze, her wide, guilty eyes meeting mine. Oh, you're still up? She slurred, forcing a nervous laugh. What's that on your neck? I asked evenly, keeping my tone calm even as my chest burned with anger. She touched the spot instinctively, her eyes darting away. Oh, this, she stammered. It's nothing. One of the girls at the party got handsy, being silly. You know how drunk people are? Her lie was so flimsy, so insulting, it made my blood boil. I wanted to yell, to demand the truth, but then something inside me shifted. I realized I didn't care about her excuses. She had crossed the line, and there was no coming back from it. I didn't say another word. I stood up and walked past her to the bedroom. The smell of her perfume and alcohol lingered in the air, like a bitter reminder of her betrayal. Lying in bed that night, I made my decision. This wasn't a marriage anymore, it was a sham, and I wasn't going to be a part of it. By the time the sun rose, I had a plan. The next day, Lisa acted as if nothing had happened, chatting about her New Year's resolutions and making breakfast like the perfect wife. But I knew better. Her betrayal wasn't just a mistake, it was a choice. And I was about to make one of my own. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into how this husband not only confronted the truth, but took back control of his life in the most unexpected way. Have you ever faced betrayal like this? How would you handle it? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next part of this story. What remained was the cleanup, and I intended to do it right. First, I needed to leave, but not just in a dramatic huff. I wasn't going to be the guy who stormed out, leaving her to spin the narrative in her favor. No, I would disappear, leaving her to stew in the mess she created. But to do that, I had to prepare. On Monday morning, while Lisa was at work, I started taking inventory. I pulled out a legal pad and wrote down everything I'd need to do before leaving. Bank accounts, personal documents, my clothes, and a place to stay. It all had to be accounted for. Over the years, I had learned to keep a mental map of our finances. Luckily, most of the big-ticket items like the house and the cars were in my name or co-signed. She didn't have access to everything, but what she did have would be gone by the time I left. The first thing I did was open a new bank account in my name only. I transferred most of the funds from our joint account into it, leaving enough to keep her from noticing anything right away. Then I froze our credit cards, citing suspicious activity. The thought of her swiping her card and having it decline made me smile. Next, I gathered my personal documents, birth certificate, passport, social security card, and locked them in my briefcase. I didn't want her finding anything once she realized I was gone. I found a storage unit across town and paid for 6 months in advance. Over the next few days, I discreetly moved my belongings into it while Lisa was at work or out with her friends. I even took a few old items I didn't need, boxes of childhood junk, a broken lamp, just to make it seem like I wasn't taking anything significant. By the time I was done, half my life was tucked away in a 10 by 10 space, ready for me to reclaim when the dust settled. Lisa barely noticed my actions. She was too busy being her usual self, texting her friends, staying late at work, and scrolling through Instagram like a teenager. But I noticed everything about her. The way she avoided eye contact when she thought I wasn't looking. The sudden increase in her phone activity late at night. The way she'd check her reflection in the mirror before leaving the house. I knew what she was doing, even if she didn't have the decency to admit it. One night, while she showered, I unlocked her phone. She'd been careless, leaving it on the counter without her usual passcode. My heart raced as I scrolled through her texts and found exactly what I had expected and feared. Flirty messages with a coworker named Matt, complete with winking emojis and inside jokes that made my stomach churn. The Hickey wasn't a mistake, it was proof. She had been lying to my face, and now I had the evidence to prove it. But leaving wasn't enough. I didn't want her to move on easily, to sweep this under the rug and carry on with her shiny new life. She needed to face the consequences of her actions. That's when the idea for my revenge plan began to take shape. The first step was gathering more evidence. I took screenshots of her messages and sent them to my email for safekeeping. I scoured her social media, looking for photos or comments that hinted at her infidelity. It wasn't hard to find. A few suspiciously cropped photos and tag locations confirmed she'd been spending more time with Matt than she claimed. I saved everything, dates, times, even conversations where she talked about me like I was some clueless idiot holding her back. Next, I drafted an email to a select group of people. Her closest friends, her parents, and even a couple of mutual friends who had always seemed a little too eager to defend her. I didn't send it right away, but it felt good to have it ready. A detailed account of her lies and betrayal, complete with screenshots. It was cruel, maybe, but fair. She deserved the world to know who she really was. By the end of the week, my escape was almost complete. I found a temporary apartment on the other side of town, a modest one-bedroom that was just enough to get by. I paid the deposit in cash, signed the lease, and kept the keys hidden in my car. The last piece of the puzzle was my departure. I didn't want a scene. and I didn't want her to have the satisfaction of trying to beg me to stay. I wanted her to wake up one day and realize I was gone, just like she had slowly disappeared from our marriage. On a crisp Saturday morning, I packed the last of my things into the trunk of my car. The house was quiet. Lisa was still asleep upstairs, oblivious to what was happening. I left a single note on the kitchen counter, short and to the point. "Lisa, you know what you did? Don't try to contact me. It's over." I walked out the door, leaving behind the life we had built together. As I drove away, I felt a strange mix of emotions: anger, sadness, relief. But most of all, I felt free. This wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning. Driving away from the house felt surreal, like I was leaving behind more than just a home. I was abandoning a life I'd spent years building. The neighborhood looked peaceful in the early morning light, but for me, it had become a battlefield of broken trust. The quiet streets, the white picket fences, the front yards lined with holiday decorations. They all seemed fake now, masking the chaos underneath. I didn't look back as I drove off. I couldn't. If I did, I might hesitate, and hesitation was the last thing I could afford. My plan was in motion, and there was no room for second-guessing. The first stop was the storage unit. I unloaded the last of my belongings. 2 suitcases, a duffel bag, and a box of sentimental items I couldn't bring myself to leave behind. It wasn't much, but it was enough to remind me of who I was before Lisa and who I needed to become again. As I locked the unit and pocketed the key, a wave of clarity washed over me. This is the truth she didn't want you to know. Do with it what you will. I hit send and leaned back, my heart pounding. I wasn't sure what kind of reaction I expected. Anger? Shock? Pity? All I knew was that Lisa had built her life on lies, and it was time for that foundation to crumble. The rest of the day passed quietly. I spent it unpacking, arranging the few possessions I had brought with me, and thinking about what might be happening back at the house. I pictured Lisa checking her phone, seeing the barrage of texts and calls from her friends and family, all demanding an explanation. I imagined her panicking, trying to spin a story, but knowing deep down there was no escape. The evidence was irrefutable. By the time evening rolled around, I had received my first reply. It was from one of Lisa's closest friends, a woman named Sophie, who had always been skeptical of Lisa's behavior, but had never said it outright. "James, I don't even know what to say. I always thought something was off, but I'm so sorry you had to go through this. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here." I stared at her words for a moment, unsure how to feel. There was some comfort in knowing that I wasn't crazy, that others had seen through Lisa's facade. But there was also anger, a quiet rage at how many people had likely suspected the truth but said nothing. Still, Sophie's message was a start. The next morning, I woke to find my inbox flooded. Replies ranged from outrage to sympathy to disbelief. Lisa's parents had written a particularly emotional response. "James, we don't know how to process this. We had no idea. Please, let's talk. We need to understand what happened." I didn't reply. There was nothing more to say. They would have to face the reality of their daughter's actions without me. Over the next few days, the fallout became evident. Word spread like wildfire. Lisa's reputation, once pristine, was in tatters. Her friends began to distance themselves, and mutual acquaintances started avoiding her entirely. Even Matt, her so-called partner in crime, reportedly tried to backtrack, blaming her for the affair to save his own skin. I heard through the grapevine that Lisa had taken leave from work, unable to face the whispers and judgment. She was drowning in the consequences of her own choices, and I didn't feel the slightest bit sorry for her. For me, the days became easier. I focused on my new life, building routines, and carving out a sense of normalcy. The bitterness I had carried for so long began to fade, replaced by a quiet determination to move forward. One evening, as I sat on my small balcony with a cup of coffee, I thought about what I had done. Sending that email, exposing Lisa's lies, had been satisfying in the moment. But it wasn't the act of revenge that gave me peace. It was the knowledge that I had finally taken control of my life. Lisa had made her choices, and I had made mine. The difference was I could live with mine. Looking out at the setting sun, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. For the first time in years, I was free to rebuild, to grow, and to leave the pain behind. And that, more than anything, was the closure I needed. Lisa doesn't deserve your sympathy. She deserves accountability. I closed the laptop with a sense of grim satisfaction. It was out of my hands now. The truth would do its work. Meanwhile, Lisa was beginning to feel the consequences of my absence. She tried calling me multiple times that morning, each attempt going straight to voicemail. I imagined her sitting on the edge of our bed, staring at her phone, cycling through emotions, confusion, frustration, and eventually panic. Her next move, predictably, was to call my family. My sister texted me shortly after. "Lisa's looking for you. Wants to talk. Told her I don't know where you are. Hope you're okay. Call me when you can." I didn't reply. Lisa wouldn't find any allies there. My family had always seen through her charming facade, though they kept their opinions to themselves out of respect for me. Now, they had no reason to play nice. By the afternoon, the fallout had begun to ripple outward. Lisa's friends started to confront her. One of them, Megan, even forwarded me her response to the email. It was a half-baked attempt to downplay what happened. "This is ridiculous. Matt and I are just friends." Those texts were taken out of context. Whoever sent this is trying to ruin my life. The audacity made me laugh. Lisa was trying to spin her way out of the situation, but the evidence spoke for itself. Screenshots didn't lie, and neither did the Hickey on her neck. As the days passed, the cracks in Lisa's life began to show. She stopped posting on social media, where she'd once curated an image of perfection, a happy wife, a thriving career, a sparkling social life. Her absence was loud, and people noticed. Megan told me she had stopped showing up to their weekly Pilates class, and had even called in sick to work. The silence from Lisa was deafening, but it didn't matter. The plan was working. Her carefully constructed life was crumbling, and all I had to do was sit back and watch. Then, on the third day, I received a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Hey, it's me." Lisa's voice came through the line, shaky and uncertain. I didn't say anything. "Please, can we just talk?" she begged. "I need to explain." The anger I'd suppressed for days bubbled to the surface, but I kept my tone steady. "Explain what, Lisa? The texts? The lies? The Hickey?" She hesitated. "It's not what you think. Save it." I cut her off. "You made your bed. Now you get to lie in it." There was a long pause before she finally spoke, her voice breaking. "I messed up, okay? I know I did, but we can fix this. I'll do whatever it takes." The sheer nerve of her made my blood boil. "Fix what, Lisa? The marriage you shattered? The trust you destroyed? This isn't something you can apologize for." "I didn't mean for any of this to happen," she whispered. "It was a mistake. Mistakes happen once. You made choices," I said coldly. "And now you get to deal with the consequences." I hung up before she could respond. Talking to her had been a mistake, but it also solidified my resolve. Lisa wasn't sorry for what she'd done. She was sorry she got caught. There was no fixing this. The next phase of my plan was already in motion. I had reached out to Matt's wife. Yes, he was married, too, and shared everything I'd uncovered. She deserved to know the truth just as much as I had. Her response was immediate and furious, promising to confront Matt and make sure he felt the full weight of his actions. Knowing Lisa would soon face the fallout at work was the icing on the cake. She and Matt worked in the same department, and their affair had already caused enough whispers to raise eyebrows. With the evidence now out in the open, it was only a matter of time before HR got involved. Lisa's life, once pristine and enviable, was unraveling thread by thread, and I didn't feel an ounce of guilt. By the end of the week, I had achieved what I set out to do. Lisa's reputation was in shambles, her social circle had abandoned her, and her career was hanging by a thread. The fallout wasn't just personal, it was professional and financial. She had built her life on lies, and now the foundation was crumbling. I didn't rejoice in her misery, but I didn't pity her either. This was justice, not petty vengeance, but a reckoning. She had betrayed me, and now she was paying the price. For the first time in years, I felt like I had the upper hand. Lisa doesn't deserve your sympathy. She deserves accountability. I closed the laptop with a sense of grim satisfaction. It was out of my hands now. The truth would do its work. Meanwhile, Lisa was beginning to feel the consequences of my absence. She tried calling me multiple times that morning, each attempt going straight to voicemail. I imagined her sitting on the edge of our bed, staring at her phone, cycling through emotions, confusion, frustration, and eventually panic. Her next move, predictably, was to call my family. My sister texted me shortly after. "Lisa's looking for you. Wants to talk." Told her, "I don't know where you are. Hope you're okay. Call me when you can." I didn't reply. Lisa wouldn't find any allies there. My family had always seen through her charming facade, though they kept their opinions to themselves out of respect for me. Now, they had no reason to play nice. By the afternoon, the fallout had begun to ripple outward. Lisa's friends started to confront her. One of them, Megan, even forwarded me her response to the email. It was a half-baked attempt to downplay what happened. "This is ridiculous. Matt and I are just friends." Those texts were taken out of context. Whoever sent this is trying to ruin my life. The audacity made me laugh. Lisa was trying to spin her way out of the situation, but the evidence spoke for itself. Screenshots didn't lie, and neither did the Hickey on her neck. As the days passed, the cracks in Lisa's life began to show. She stopped posting on social media, where she'd once curated an image of perfection. A happy wife, a thriving career, a sparkling social life. Her absence was loud, and people noticed. Megan told me she had stopped showing up to their weekly Pilates class and had even called in sick to work. The silence from Lisa was deafening, but it didn't matter. The plan was working. Her carefully constructed life was crumbling, and all I had to do was sit back and watch. Then, on the third day, I received a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Hey, it's me." Lisa's voice came through the line, shaky and uncertain. I didn't say anything. "Please, can we just talk?" she begged. "I need to explain." The anger I'd suppressed for days bubbled to the surface, but I kept my tone steady. "Explain what, Lisa? The texts? The lies? The Hickey?" She hesitated. "It's not what you think. Save it." I cut her off. "You made your bed. Now you get to lie in it." There was a long pause before she finally spoke, her voice breaking. "I messed up, okay? I know I did, but we can fix this. I'll do whatever it takes." The sheer nerve of her made my blood boil. "Fix what, Lisa? The marriage you shattered? The trust you destroyed? This isn't something you can apologize for." "I didn't mean for any of this to happen," she whispered. "It was a mistake. Mistakes happen once. You made choices," I said coldly. "And now you get to deal with the consequences." I hung up before she could respond. Talking to her had been a mistake, but it also solidified my resolve. Lisa wasn't sorry for what she'd done. She was sorry she got caught. There was no fixing this. The days turned into weeks, and Lisa's life continued to unravel. The emails had done their job. Friends who once stood by her began to distance themselves. I learned through mutual acquaintances that Lisa's affair with Matt had become the centerpiece of office gossip. HR had been alerted to their relationship after Matt's furious wife exposed them both. Lisa was now teetering on the edge of losing her job. Professionally, socially, and personally, her life was a crumbling facade, and all I had to do was watch. One evening, Megan texted me again. "Lisa's desperate to talk to you. Wants to meet in person. What do you think?" I stared at the message, debating. Part of me wanted to let the silence speak for itself. But another part, the one still carrying unresolved questions, wanted to see her one last time. 2 days later, I agreed. We met at a small coffee shop on the outskirts of town. I arrived early, choosing a corner table. When Lisa walked in, she looked frazzled, her confident demeanor replaced by exhaustion. She hesitated when she spotted me, then approached cautiously. "Hi," she said softly, sliding into the seat across from me. I didn't respond, just studied her. "Thank you for meeting me," she began, fidgeting nervously. "I didn't know if you'd ever speak to me again." "I'm not here for small talk," I said bluntly. "Say what you need to say." She swallowed hard. "I know I hurt you. I know I ruined everything. But I need you to understand." "Stop," I interrupted. "I don't need your excuses. You lied, you cheated, and you destroyed our marriage. That's all I need to understand. Her face crumpled, tears welling in her eyes. I was unhappy, she whispered. I didn't know how to talk to you. I made the worst mistake of my life. Do you even realize how selfish that sounds? I shot back. You were unhappy, so you destroyed everything instead of fixing it or leaving. You didn't just betray me. You betrayed us. She broke down completely, her sobs quiet but relentless. For a moment, I almost felt pity, but pity wasn't enough to erase what she had done. Is there any chance at all we could fix this? She asked, her voice trembling. I shook my head. No, Lisa, you killed the person who would have forgiven you. There's no going back. Her face fell, the reality finally sinking in. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I hope you are, I said, standing to leave. Because sorry is all you have left. Walking out of that coffee shop felt like stepping into a new chapter. Lisa had destroyed the life we built together, but she couldn't destroy me. Now I was free to rebuild, stronger and wiser than before. The road ahead wasn't clear, but it was mine to navigate. In the weeks that followed, I immersed myself in the process of moving on. My first priority was settling into my new apartment. It wasn't much, but it was a blank slate, a chance to create a space that reflected me, not a compromise between two people. I spent weekends at thrift stores, picking out furniture and decorations. It was therapeutic in a way, reclaiming my identity one piece at a time. I also began reconnecting with old friends, people I had unintentionally drifted away from during my marriage. When I explained what had happened, most of them were supportive, though a few admitted they had seen signs of Lisa's discontent long before I did. That stung, but it also reinforced the importance of rebuilding relationships that had faded during the years I spent prioritizing her over everyone else. Work became a refuge. I threw myself into my job, taking on new projects and working longer hours. It wasn't just a distraction. It was a way to prove to myself that I was still capable, still valuable. Slowly, I started to see results, promotions, raises, and the respect of my colleagues. It felt good to excel, to be recognized for my efforts, something I hadn't felt in my marriage for a long time. One evening, as I was cleaning out some old boxes, I found a photo of Lisa and me from our honeymoon. We were on a beach, both of us smiling, with no idea of the pain that would come years later. I stared at it for a long time, wondering where we had gone wrong. Was it my fault? Had I missed signs that could have saved us? Or had she simply changed in ways I couldn't control? In the end, I decided to let those questions go. There was no point in dissecting the past when the future was waiting for me. Lisa, on the other hand, was still trapped in the fallout. Mutual friends occasionally sent updates, though I didn't ask for them. She had been fired from her job after the HR investigation confirmed her affair with Matt. The last I heard, she was staying with her parents, trying to piece her life back together. At first, I felt satisfaction hearing about her struggles. After all, she had brought it on herself. But over time, the anger faded, replaced by indifference. Lisa was no longer my problem, and holding on to resentment would only anchor me to the past. About 3 months after I left, I received a letter from Lisa in the mail. It was handwritten, the words scrawled unevenly across the page, as if she had been crying while writing it. She apologized again, not just for the affair, but for the years of emotional neglect and deceit that had led up to it. She said she didn't expect forgiveness, but hoped I would find happiness. I didn't write back. Her apology felt sincere, but it didn't change anything. Forgiving her wouldn't erase the betrayal, and it wouldn't bring back the man I had been before she broke my trust. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer, a reminder of what I had overcome. Months turned into a year, and life began to take on a new rhythm. I started dating again, though cautiously. Trust didn't come easily after Lisa, but I was determined not to let her actions dictate my future. I met someone, a kind and grounded woman named Sarah, who had also been through her share of heartbreak. We bonded over our stories, finding solace in the fact that we both understood what it meant to rebuild. Sarah wasn't like Lisa. She didn't light up a room or crave attention. Instead, she radiated warmth and authenticity, qualities I hadn't realized I was missing in my marriage. With her, there were no games, no hidden agendas, just honesty and connection. For the first time in years, I felt hope. One evening, Sarah and I were sitting on the couch in my apartment, laughing over a terrible movie we'd found on TV. She turned to me and said, "You seem lighter these days, like you've let go of something heavy." I thought about her words and realized she was right. I had let go of anger, of betrayal, of the version of myself that had been tied to Lisa's mistakes. I was no longer the man defined by what had happened to me. I was someone new, someone stronger. "You're right," I said, pulling her closer. "I think I finally have." As we sat there, the weight of the past felt further away than ever. Lisa's betrayal had once consumed me, but now it was just a memory, a chapter in a story that no longer defined me. The life I had lost was gone, but the one I was building was far better. In the end, her infidelity had given me a gift I never expected: the freedom to rediscover myself and the strength to start over. And for that, I was grateful. Thank you for watching till the end. If you enjoyed the story, make sure to hit the like button. It only takes a second, but it means a world to us. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our upcoming videos, and hit the notification bell to be among the first to see it. See you in the next video.